Ethan had always lived a quiet life on Station Eos, a human colony that floated around a dim red star. The station was large enough to hold thousands of people, but for Ethan, life was small and simple. He worked as an engineer who fixed machines, patched broken power lines, and kept oxygen pumps running. His small apartment was neat but lonely. Every night, after long hours of repairing circuits and cooling systems, he would return home to silence. That silence ended the day she moved, and it started with a knock on his door. Ethan rarely had visitors. When he opened it, he saw two station officers standing outside. Between them stood a woman who was clearly not human. Her skin was pale silver, faintly glowing under the hallway lights. Her hair looked almost liquid, flowing like strands of metal. Her eyes were the strangest part. They glowed faintly, as if lit from inside, two blue orbs watching him carefully. "Engineer Ethan Cole?" one officer asked. "Yes," Ethan said slowly, eyes shifting to the alien woman. "This is Lyra," the officer explained. "She is a refugee from the outer colonies. Due to space shortage, she has been assigned temporary housing here, with you." Ethan blinked. "With me?" "It is an order," the officer said. "She needs safety. You have extra room. She will stay." Ethan had no choice. He nodded and stepped aside. Lyra entered quietly, carrying nothing but a small satchel. She looked around his apartment with calm, unreadable eyes. When the officers left, the silence stretched between them. Ethan finally spoke. "I wasn't told this would happen, but welcome, I guess." Lyra tilted her head. "Thank you. I will not cause trouble." Her voice was soft, musical, almost like a song. First night together. The first night was strange. Ethan lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, listening. Normally, silence filled his room, broken only by the hum of the station's engines. But now there was something else. From the other side of the thin wall, he heard humming. It wasn't human humming. The sound was layered like two voices in harmony, even though he knew only one woman was making it. The melody was haunting and beautiful, but it unsettled him. He turned on his side, pulling the blanket higher. "What have I gotten myself into?" he thought. The humming stopped suddenly, as if Lyra had sensed his unease. Silence returned, but Ethan could not sleep for hours. Day 2. Small changes. The next day, Ethan left early for work. He repaired a faulty generator near the outer docking bay, trying to keep his mind busy. Still, he found himself thinking about his new roommate. When he came home, he noticed small changes. His apartment, usually a mess of tools and loose wires, had been quietly cleaned. The table was clear. The floor was tidy. Lyra sat near the window, staring out at the red star. "You didn't have to do that," Ethan said. "You work long hours," she replied simply. "It seemed necessary." Ethan scratched the back of his neck. "Well, thanks." She gave the smallest smile, then returned to staring at the stars. That night, the humming returned. Softer this time. Ethan found himself listening, strangely comforted despite his unease. The song carried sadness, like a memory of something lost. The mystery grows over. The next few days, Ethan learned small things about her. Lyra rarely ate human food, but seemed fine with simple fruit and water. She never used much space, moving quietly around the apartment like a shadow, but he also noticed strange details. When she touched his broken data pad, the screen flickered back to life for a moment before dying again. When she became startled by loud noises outside, the lights in his apartment flickered at the same time. Ethan didn't know if it was coincidence or something else. Questions without answers. One evening, Ethan tried asking questions. "So, where are you from?" he asked while they ate. Lyra looked down at her food. "Far from here." "Do you have family?" "They are gone." Ethan hesitated, then tried again. "What about your people? Are there more of you on this station?" Her glowing eyes lifted to meet his. For a moment, Ethan felt like those blue lights were searching his very thoughts. Finally, she shook her head. No, I am the last here. Her words carried a final weight. The conversation ended. That night, her humming was louder. Almost desperate, Ethan lay awake wondering who she was calling to. Uneasy dreams one night, Ethan woke suddenly. His room was dim, lit only by the faint red glow of the star outside. Through the wall he heard Lyra's voice, not humming this time, but speaking. It wasn't English. It wasn't any language he recognized. His translator implant didn't activate, which meant the language wasn't in its database. Her voice rose and fell, full of strange rhythms. It almost sounded like a prayer or a plea. Ethan sat up in bed, heart racing. Was she talking to someone or something? When her voice stopped, silence returned. Ethan didn't dare leave his room. He stayed awake until the soft hum of the station's engines lulled him back to uneasy sleep. A fragile routine days passed, and a fragile routine formed. Ethan went to work. Lyra stayed mostly inside. Sometimes she helped with repairs, surprising him with knowledge of machines far more advanced than human technology. But the nights remained different. Every evening brought the same pattern, silence then humming, sometimes whispers in the strange language. Ethan grew used to it, but deep inside, he felt the weight of a mystery he couldn't ignore. Still, he didn't ask. Some part of him feared the answer. Closing scene of Part 1 one night. As Ethan prepared to sleep, the station lights flickered. For a brief second, he thought he saw shadows bend strangely across his room, as if pulled by unseen hands. He froze. From the other room came Lyra's soft voice. "Do not be afraid, I will not harm you." Her words should have comforted him. Instead, they left him with more questions. Ethan lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening once more to her haunting song. He knew one thing for certain. Since she moved in, the nights would never be the same. The days passed slowly on Station Eos, but the nights felt different now. Ethan's apartment had become a strange place where silence no longer ruled. Lyra's presence, calm and mysterious, filled every corner. Even in her quiet moments, there was something unusual in the way shadows seemed to shift near her. Ethan tried to act normal, but his curiosity grew each day. He wanted to know more about her. She was polite, never asked for much, and rarely talked about herself. But the small things hinted at a story far larger than he could imagine. A flicker in the light sit started with small flickers in the lighting. Every evening, as the red sun outside dimmed and the station lights took over, the lamps in Ethan's apartment would blink. At first, he thought it was a station-wide power fluctuation, but then he noticed a pattern. The flickers only happened when Lyra moved or when her emotions seemed strong. One night she flinched at a loud noise from the corridor, and the lights in the room danced like flames. Ethan frowned. "That's odd," he muttered, watching the gentle glow from her skin. "It can't just be coincidence." He didn't ask her yet. Something told him she might not want to explain. Unexpected help one morning, Ethan returned from work to find his apartment unusually tidy again. Tools were neatly organized, the floor cleaned, and even a small meal prepared on the table. Lyra looked up from her seat by the window, her glowing eyes watching him. "I thought it would help. You seem tired." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "I appreciate it, but I don't understand. You barely eat or rest, and yet you keep helping me." Her voice was calm. "It is proper to assist those who provide shelter. I do not wish to be a burden." Ethan felt a small smile tug at his lips. She spoke politely, but there was a quiet strength in her tone, one that told him she had endured far more than he could imagine. A strange encounter. Later that day, Ethan noticed something even stranger. His personal data pad, which had been broken, for weeks flickered to life when Lyra touched it. The screen displayed lines of alien code, complex and unreadable. It blinked for a few seconds, then went dark again. What was that?" Ethan asked. Lyra's eyes glimmered faintly. "A small trick. I can make some machines respond." You can fix things with magic? He asked, unsure if he meant it literally. It is not magic. It is knowledge. Knowledge your kind does not yet have, she said quietly. Ethan did not press further. The thought made his chest tighten. Her presence was more than unusual. It was extraordinary. Whispers in the night. That night, Ethan tried to sleep early. He wanted to ignore the strange events and rest. But as usual, the humming started. It began soft, almost like a lullaby, then grew stronger. This time, Ethan heard whispers. Her voice, low and melodic, spoke words he could not understand. The translator in his ear did not respond. He strained to listen, wondering who or what she was communicating with. He wanted to knock on the wall to ask, "What is happening?" But he stayed quiet. The words were not hostile. They were full of longing, sadness, and something he could not name. For hours he listened. By the time her voice faded, Ethan's mind was full of questions he could not answer. A curious day. The next day, Ethan's curiosity overcame him. While Lyra was preparing a small meal, he asked, "Lyra, about last night, the things you were saying. Who were you speaking to?" She paused, her glowing eyes meeting his. A long moment passed. Then she shook her head. "I do not speak to anyone here. It is a memory." "Memory?" Ethan repeated. "Do you mean someone you lost?" Her gaze drifted to the window. "Yes, and more. I remember my home, my people, and the enemies that destroyed them." Ethan felt a chill. The station had seen refugees before, but he realized Lyra was D. Life on Station EOS had changed completely for Ethan. Before Lyra moved in, his world had been quiet, simple, and predictable. But now, each day brought new mysteries. Her presence, calm yet strange, filled the apartment with an energy he could feel but not fully understand. Despite the lingering unease, Ethan found himself drawn to her. Lyra was not like anyone he had ever met. She was polite, intelligent, and skilled in ways he could not imagine. Slowly, a bond began to form between them, built on curiosity, trust, and an unspoken understanding. A morning together. One morning, Ethan woke to the soft hum of Lyra moving about the apartment. The sunlight from the red star outside painted her silver hair with faint golden highlights. She was preparing a small meal, simple fruit and some bread, but she did it with care, arranging it neatly on the table. "Good morning," Ethan said, rubbing his eyes. "I didn't hear you get up." Lyra turned, a small smile touching her lips. "I wake early. It is easier to think in silence." Ethan nodded, noticing how calm she seemed. Even in her quiet, there was purpose. Her glow was softer in the morning, light, and yet he could sense the same energy he felt at night. Working side by side that day, Ethan needed to repair a damaged power relay near the docking bay. Normally he worked alone, but he noticed Lyra following him quietly. "Do you want to help?" Ethan asked. "I can," she said simply. At first he was unsure, but as he worked he realized that her knowledge of machinery was far beyond human engineering. She adjusted wiring with precision, explained concepts he had never learned, and even suggested ways to improve efficiency. Ethan felt a mix of awe and curiosity. "Where did you learn all this?" he asked. "Every place I have lived, I observed. Every problem I encountered, I solved. Survival teaches knowledge quickly." Her words were simple, yet powerful. Ethan realized that her life had been far harsher than his quiet days on Station EOS could ever be. Stories of the past. After finishing the repairs, they returned to the apartment. Ethan noticed Lyra seemed tired, a rare break in her otherwise composed demeanor. "Do you want to talk?" he asked hesitantly. "About your people? Or your home?" She paused, looking out the window at the red star. "I will tell you a little, My people lived far from here, on a planet now destroyed. We were skilled in arts and science beyond what humans know. I was trained to protect our knowledge, but enemies came. They took everything. Ethan swallowed hard. The words made the weight of her presence heavier. I'm sorry, he said softly. I can't imagine losing everything like that. You do not need to imagine, she said quietly. It is my memory. I carry it alone. But I do not wish to burden you with sadness. Even so, he felt a connection growing between them. The shared space, the small acts of care, and the trust she was showing, these were the beginnings of a bond he could not ignore. Comfort in the night. That evening, Ethan lay in bed, waiting for the familiar hum. This time, he did not feel fear. Instead, he felt curiosity. When the humming began, he listened carefully. It was soft, melodic, almost like a song. And yet tonight he sensed a hint of hope within it. He realized that Lyra's songs, though strange and alien, were not just memories of loss. They were also expressions of resilience, a way to survive her pain. Slowly, Ethan found himself humming along quietly, unsure why he did it. It felt comforting. For the first time, the strange nights did not feel threatening. They felt alive. A shared meal. The next day, Ethan suggested something simple. I can cook tonight. You helped me so much yesterday. Let me return the favor. Lyra looked surprised. You cook? Yes, he replied, smiling. Well, sometimes. I'm not very fancy, but I try. That evening they sat together, sharing a simple meal. They talked quietly about human life, the station, and small things Ethan had never shared with anyone. Lyra listened carefully, occasionally asking questions, showing interest in his words. For Ethan, it was strange but pleasant. The alien woman in his apartment, who could bend machines and glow at night, was now listening to his stories and sharing laughter. Curiosity turns to concern. Despite growing closer, Ethan's curiosity could not be contained. He noticed things that did not make sense. Sometimes her shadow would move oddly, not following her body precisely. Sometimes, when she touched certain electronics, they flickered or responded in ways that defied explanation. One afternoon, while fixing a damaged energy conduit, Ethan finally asked, Lyra, what exactly are you? You're not just human, are you? She hesitated, eyes glowing faintly. I am my people's last guardian. I carry their knowledge and power. It is why I survive. Ethan's hands froze on the conduit. Power? You mean, you can do things humans cannot? Yes, she said softly, but it is not for me alone. It is for what I protect. I do not wish to use it unless necessary. Ethan felt both awe and fear. Living with her meant more than sharing space. It meant sharing a home with someone extraordinary. Moments of trust as days passed. Small moments built their bond. Ethan taught her about human customs, how to make simple meals, how to repair human machinery in his style. In return, she taught him tricks for machines he had never understood, and small lessons about patience and observation. One evening they sat by the window watching the red star slowly sink behind the station's hull. Lyra spoke softly, almost to herself. It is strange. Humans are fragile, yet they endure so much. I did not understand before, but now I see. Ethan looked at her, understanding the words were meant partly for him. He felt his chest warm. For the first time, he realized he trusted her completely. Nighttime. Revelations. That night the humming returned, but differently. Ethan lay in bed listening carefully. This time it was not sad. There was rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. He got out of bed and approached her room quietly. Lyra sat on the floor, eyes closed, hands moving slowly in the air. Tiny sparks of light floated above her fingers, forming shapes that glimmered and faded. It is beautiful, Ethan whispered. Her eyes opened, glowing softly. It is a form of expression. Humans do not see it. It is part of me. Only those I trust can feel its meaning. Ethan felt honored and nervous. Sharing a life with her meant more than coexisting. It meant sharing trust, secrets, and strength. Closing scene of part 3 by the end of the night. Ethan lay in bed again, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the strange energy, the humming, the knowledge she carried, and the bond forming between them. Lyra's presence had already changed his life. Nights that once were quiet and predictable now carried music, energy, and mystery. He realized that their connection was growing stronger with each passing day, and one truth became clear. He could not imagine life without her now. She had become more than a roommate. She was a part of his world, and the nights would never be the same again. The calm of Station Eos did not last. Ethan had grown accustomed to Lyra's presence, her strange energy, and the soft hums that filled the nights. But he had a feeling that the peace they shared was fragile. Something in the air felt heavier these days, like a storm waiting to strike. He discovered just how fragile it was one quiet morning. Strange signals. Ethan was at work in the station's engineering bay when the alert siren sounded. Red lights flashed along the corridors, a warning every engineer knew meant only one thing. An unauthorized fleet had approached the station. He glanced at the main console and saw the readings. A small but advanced force of alien ships was closing, in fast. The systems detected a strange energy signature, one that he recognized from his time working with Lyra. His stomach sank. Could it be her enemies, he thought. He rushed back to the apartment, heart pounding. When he arrived, Lyra was already looking out the window, her eyes glowing brighter than usual. "They are here," she said quietly. "The ones who destroyed my world. They have followed me." Ethan froze. "Followed? You?" She nodded. "They will not stop. They seek the knowledge I carry. I do not know if we can escape them this time." Confrontation with station officials. Before Ethan could speak further, the station's security officers arrived at the apartment. They were nervous, alert, and clearly afraid of what might happen. "Lyra," one of the officers said, voice shaking, "explain the signals. Are you leading danger to our station?" Lyra remained calm, her glowing eyes steady. "I do not lead danger. I am being hunted. I did not bring them here." Ethan stepped forward, anger rising in his chest. "She is under my protection. She has done nothing wrong. You will not hand her over." The officers hesitated. The rules of the station were strict. No alien of her kind should live freely, especially if danger was near. But Ethan's voice carried something they could not ignore. Conviction. Preparing for the attack, Lyra moved quickly, her energy radiating softly, filling the apartment with a warmth that contrasted with the cold. "Tension outside. We must prepare," she said. "Even the strongest defenses may not stop them. We will need more than the station's walls to survive." Ethan helped her move equipment, power conduits, tools, and even some alien devices she had brought with her. He watched as she worked, her hands glowing faintly as she adjusted circuits and energy flows with skill that defied human understanding. Despite the fear, Ethan felt a strange calm. Lyra had a strength he could not explain. She was not afraid, and somehow that made him feel braver too. First contact. The warning sirens grew louder as the alien ships approached. Through the window, Ethan could see the sleek, dark shapes gliding past the outer docks. The battle outside Station Eos had ended, but the tension remained. Ethan and Lyra stood among the corridors, still ringing with the echoes of alarms and energy blasts. The station had survived, but the enemy was far from gone. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead, his heart still racing. He looked at Lyra, her silver hair disheveled, eyes glowing softly as she surveyed the aftermath. Despite the exhaustion, she radiated calm determination. "They will return," she said quietly, almost to herself. Ethan nodded, fists clenched. "Then we'll be ready. We'll make sure they never reach anyone else." Station Council intervenes. Galactic Council, which oversaw Station Eos, contacted them immediately. Holographic screens projected the officials' stern faces. "Lyra," one of them began, voice sharp, "you pose a risk to station security. Your presence attracts enemies. You will come under our control immediately." Lyra's glowing eyes narrowed slightly, but she remained calm. "I will not submit. I have fought to survive, yes, but I will not give up my freedom. Not now, not ever." Ethan stepped forward, anger rising. "She saved this station. She fought alongside humans, defended all of you. You can't just take her." The council's faces were unyielding. "Rules are rules, Ethan Cole. She is an alien refugee with unknown powers. You cannot protect her from us indefinitely." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I will. We are not handing her over." Lyra placed a hand on his arm, her glow softening. "You must be careful. Humans are strong, but the Council's authority is absolute. Together we must find another way." Preparing for a final stand, the Council demanded that the station strengthen defenses, but Lyra knew the enemy would return with greater force. She guided Ethan to a secluded section of the station, where they could use her abilities to enhance the station's systems further. "This will amplify all human technology," she explained, her hands glowing faintly as she adjusted the controls. "It is not unlimited. If we use it wrong, it could destroy the station." Ethan nodded, following her instructions carefully. The lights flickered as energy surged through the station's conduits. For a moment, the entire structure seemed alive, pulsing with Lyra's power and Ethan's precise engineering. "This is incredible," Ethan whispered, awe in his voice. "I never imagined humans and you could work together like this." Lyra gave a small, serious smile. "Humans are resilient. You endure and fight even when hope seems lost. That is why I chose to trust you." The enemy returns hours later. Sensors detected the return of the alien fleet. They were larger this time, faster and more organized. The station's alarms blared, and Ethan's heart raced as he and Lyra worked side by side. "Focus," she said. "We can defend the station, but it will require everything we have." Energy fields ignited, shields strengthened, and the station's defense systems hummed with new power. Ethan moved swiftly, repairing damaged conduits, redirecting energy, and assisting Lyra in maintaining the delicate balance of human and alien technology. When the first wave of enemy ships struck, Lyra's glowing energy formed protective barriers that absorbed most of the impact. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and Ethan could feel the sheer force of her power radiating through the station. Humanity's courage as the battle raged, Ethan realized something important. Humans were not powerless. Even ordinary crew members joined the defense, guided by his instructions and inspired by Lyra's presence. Engineers, pilots, and guards worked together seamlessly, a coordinated effort that made the station a stronghold against the enemy. Lyra looked at Ethan, eyes glowing brighter. "See? You are stronger than you know. Your people fight even when fear grips them. That is why humans survive." Ethan felt pride swell in his chest. The bond he had formed with her was no longer just personal. It had become a source of strength for everyone. Unleashing hidden power, the battle intensified as enemy ships penetrated outer defenses. Lyra knew they needed a decisive move. She turned to Ethan. "Are you ready?" she asked. "I am," he replied, heart racing. She focused her energy, drawing from her own power while amplifying it through the station's systems. Waves of glowing force radiated outward, hitting the enemy ships. The fleet staggered under the combined might of human engineering and her alien abilities. Ethan watched in awe as she controlled energy with precision. It was not just raw power. It was strategy, skill, and intuition working together. He realized that humans and Lyra were unstoppable when united. A turning point. The alien fleet faltered. Their attacks became less organized, their ships struggling against the enhanced shields and energy waves. Humanity, inspired by Lyra and led by Ethan's quick thinking, launched counterattacks that drove the enemy back. Lyra smiled faintly. "We are stronger together. Never forget that." Ethan nodded. He knew this was more than a victory. It was a lesson. Humanity could survive, and even thrive, when courage, trust, and intelligence combined with allies who believed in them. After the battle, when the last enemy ship retreated, the station was battered but intact. Fires burned in some corridors and sparks drifted from damaged systems, but the people were alive. The council arrived once more, this time with different expressions. "You," one official began, looking at Lyra and then Ethan. This was unprecedented. You saved the station, against impossible odds." Ethan shook his head. "We didn't do it alone. Lyra helped. She trusted humans, and humans stood with her. That is what matters." The council fell silent. They could not ignore the reality. Humanity, with Lyra's help, had stood against a powerful enemy and won. Bond solidified. That evening, Ethan and Lyra returned to their apartment, exhausted but triumphant. They sat together by the window, looking at the red star as it slowly dimmed behind the station's hull. "You were incredible," Ethan said softly. I don't know what I would have done without you." "You were incredible too," Lyra replied, her glowing eyes softening. "You trust, you fight, and you protect. That is why I chose to stay with you." For the first time, Ethan felt a deep sense of peace. Despite the danger, the nights, and the unknown, he realized that their bond had grown stronger than anything the universe could challenge. Nighttime reflections. As night fell, Ethan lay in bed, thinking about everything that had happened. The hum of Lyra's energy filled the room, gentle and rhythmic. It was no longer frightening. It was comforting. He realized the nights had changed forever. They were no longer quiet or lonely. They were full of life, energy, and the promise that no matter what came next, they could face it together. Lyra's presence was no longer just a mystery. It was a source of strength. And in that quiet glow, Ethan knew that humanity had gained more than an ally. They had gained hope, courage, and a friend unlike any other. Closing scene of Part 5. The Galactic Council, while still cautious, had learned a lesson. Humans and Lyra, together, were a force that could not be underestimated. Ethan looked at her, glowing softly in the dim light. "The nights, they'll never be the same, will they?" "No," Lyra said with a faint smile. "But now they are ours. Together we can face anything." And for the first time in a long time, Ethan truly believed it. The nights were forever changed, but they were brighter, stronger, and filled with trust, courage, and the bond of two beings who had survived against impossible odds. The station was finally quiet. The last alien ships had retreated into the darkness of space, leaving Station Eos battered but still standing. For the first time in many nights, Ethan felt a small sense of peace. He glanced around the apartment, where tools, wires, and energy conduits had been hastily rearranged after the battle. Lyra sat by the window, her silver hair reflecting the soft red glow of the star outside. The gentle hum of her energy filled the room, calm and rhythmic. Ethan walked over and sat beside her. "We did it," he said quietly. "We survived. The station survived." Lyra's glowing eyes turned to him, soft and steady. "Yes, together." For the first time, Ethan felt that their bond had reached something deeper. They were no longer just roommates nor simply allies. They were partners in every sense, survivors, friends, and now, something even more meaningful. Rebuilding begins. The next morning, the station's crew started the process of repairing damaged sections. Fires were extinguished, systems recalibrated, and corridors cleared. Ethan joined them immediately, working side by side with other engineers. Lyra, too, assisted, her abilities enhancing the human efforts and making repairs faster than anyone could have imagined. "You're incredible," Ethan said as she stabilized a critical energy conduit. "It is necessary," she replied simply. "You and your people fought bravely. This is my way of helping." Ethan felt proud, not just of Lyra, but of humanity. They had stood together, faced overwhelming odds, and survived. And in that unity, he realized the strength of humans when, guided by trust and courage. A quiet moment as the day ended, Ethan returned to their apartment, exhausted but satisfied. He found Lyra sitting near the window watching the red star dip below the station's horizon. "You're quiet today," he said, joining her. "I am reflecting," she replied. "The battle. It showed me something important. Humans are stronger than I imagined. They endure fear, danger, and loss, yet they continue to fight. It is admirable." Ethan smiled softly. "And you helped us see it. I don't know how to thank you enough." Her gaze met his, glowing faintly. "You do not need to thank me. You trusted me, and that trust made everything possible. That is enough." Sharing stories that night for tea,